Lexi Hull's workout. She is back in Indiana.
And that stands out to me with this is this right here. You see my pointer right here, and then this over here. Lexi is all smiles.
Stephanie White, a veteran coach, calm, composed, nothing rattles her, walks into a gym just expecting a regular workout. And within minutes, she's absolutely floored. Not by one, but two players going at it with a level of intensity that made even her pause. Like, we're talking, what did I just walk into? Levels of serious.
Lexi can just be our own perimeter shooter, consistent. Over 60% from the field. People don't get ball. If Lexi Hull shoots 60% from three, she's going to make the first team All-WNBA. If she's going to be a 60% field goal shooter on open shots, she's going to make first team All-WNBA.
On one side, Caitlin Clark, you already know, a walking highlight reel. On the other, Lexi Hull, low-key killer, flying under the radar. Until now. The two of them locked in a training session that looked less like practice and more like a battle for greatness.
Like, some action that Christy Sides didn't run, like Caitlin Clark setting screens. Good curl. She made a layup. There we go. That's what we want to see. We want to see Lexi Hull making layups.
And get this. This wasn't some PR stunt. No lights, no cameras, just sweat, grit, and two future stars pushing past every limit. Coach White saw it with her own eyes and said, "This is different. This could change the entire trajectory of their season." So, yeah, if you thought this was just another off-season update, think again. Because once you hear what went down in that gym and what it means for the Fever, you're gonna understand why the hype is very, very real. Alright, before we dive into what actually went down in that wild training session, let's take a quick second to talk about who we're dealing with here and why this moment means everything heading into the 2025 WNBA season. First up, Stephanie White. She's not just some coach dropping hot takes. This woman knows talent, played at the highest level, coached across college and pro teams, championship DNA. So when she's stunned by a workout, that's not fluff. That's a red flag that something serious is brewing. Then we've got Caitlin Clark. And let's be honest, she needs no introduction. The rookie phenom who had the entire basketball world watching every dribble last season. Long threes, jaw-dropping passes, court vision like she's got cheat codes. She's basically become a walking headline. And somehow, even with all that attention, she's the type who disappears into the gym and keeps grinding. That alone says a lot. Now, right beside her in that gym was Lexi Hull. And look, if Caitlin is the headline, Lexi's the footnote you better not skip. She doesn't play for the cameras. She plays for impact. Last season, she was hustling for minutes, doing the dirty work, flying under the radar. But if you were paying attention, especially late in the year, you saw her start to shine. Lockdown defense, clutch shooting, quiet confidence. And then boom, she goes off in the unrivaled league and helps lead her squad to a championship. That's not a side story anymore. That's a main plot line. And here's where it all comes together. This isn't just about two players trying to stay in shape. This is about two rising stars with wildly different games and paths colliding in one brutal, focused, no-nonsense training grind and making each other better. Caitlin's already pegged as the franchise. Lexi, she's got everything to prove and everything to gain. And make no mistake, the Indiana Fever aren't just chasing improvement this season. They're gunning for something bigger, a real playoff run, a statement year. And with the roster getting deeper, more competitive, and more stacked with talent than ever, every player is fighting for their role, every single day. So when Stephanie White sees these two putting in this kind of off-season work, it's not just impressive, it's a warning shot. Because if this is how they're preparing when no one's watching, imagine what they're gonna do when the lights come on. Okay, so now that we know who we're dealing with, let's talk about the moment that flipped everything. Picture this. It's a private gym. No crowd, no media, no PR team setting up cameras, just sneakers squeaking on hardwood, the sharp echo of a shot bouncing off the rim, and two athletes locked in. Lexi Hull and Caitlin Clark, mid-off-season, in a workout so intense it didn't feel like training. It felt like a test, and that's what Coach Stephanie White walked into. She thought she'd see some basic skill work, a few drills, light conditioning, maybe some shooting reps. You know, the usual off-season rhythm, but what she witnessed was a grind session. Pure intensity. No wasted motion, no goofing around. It was like they were already in playoff mode, and it was still the off-season. Caitlin was running through full-speed shooting drills, hitting threes off movement, sprinting into pick-and-roll reads, catching passes at impossible angles, and still launching lasers across the court. It wasn't about flash. It was about repetition under pressure, the kind of pressure you manufacture when you don't have 10,000 fans watching, just your own standards pushing you forward. Lexi, meanwhile, wasn't just showing up. She was matching Caitlin. Steppy. 4-step. She was fighting through off-ball screens, diving for loose balls in a no-audience gym, forcing tough defensive reads in every rep. Her footwork was sharp, her positioning was textbook, and she was contesting everything. You could see she wasn't just working on technique, she was conditioning her mind to stay relentless. And this wasn't two players doing their own thing. This was intentional, synchronized, elite-level work. They were reading each other, calling each other out, adjusting spacing, resetting drills mid-rep to get it perfect. That's the kind of synergy you can't fake. Now here's the wild part. Coach White didn't just think, wow, they're working hard. She described it as one of the most focused, intense, and effective off-season workouts she's ever seen. That's coming from someone who's coached all-stars, NCAA champs, Olympic-caliber talent, and this session made her stop and take notice. Because here's the truth. Most off-season training is structured, yes, but it's also routine, predictable. You go through your reps, you work on your game. What Clark and Hull were doing was next-level developmental training, a mixture of live scenario simulation, individualized technical drills, and game speed intensity. Think, combining high-intensity interval training, AYT principles, with strategic skill refinement. That's a sports science-backed way to build both physical, resilience, and game IQ at the same time. That's why this moment matters. Stephanie White didn't just witness talent. She saw obsession. She saw intentional greatness. And more importantly, she saw two players pushing each other beyond comfort, knowing full well that the season ahead wasn't just about highlights, it was about legacy. So here's the thing. This kind of elite-level training, it doesn't just happen between any two teammates. There's something deeper at play here. Something you can't coach, can't teach, and can't fake. Chemistry. And if you've been watching The Fever even just a little, you already know. Caitlin Clark and Lexi Hull, they vibe. It's not loud or flashy. They're not out here filming TikTok dances after practice. But there's this quiet, undeniable connection between them. You'd see it last season, little moments. Caitlin throws a no-look dime before Lexi even cuts, but somehow, she's already there. Lexi reads Caitlin's heat check energy and clears space without a word. They move like they're running on the same internal GPS. And it's not just us noticing it. Coach White has talked about it. Teammates have felt it. The synergy is real. It's built on mutual respect, work ethic, and something way more rare, trust. But what's cool is that bond didn't start in some dramatic locker room speech or viral game winner. It grew in the in-between moments, like those off-season Instagram comments. Playful, supportive, but consistent. Lexi cheering on Caitlin's workouts. Caitlin cracking jokes after Lexi's unrivaled league wins. It's lighthearted stuff, sure, but it tells you something important. They were staying connected even when they were miles apart. Caitlin took the stealth route, disappearing from the media eye, locking in privately, quietly building. Lexi went the other way, stepped into the spotlight in a brand new pro league, leading her team to a championship. Totally different off-seasons. But here's the twist. Those contrasting paths made them even more locked in as a duo, because now they bring different energy to the court. Caitlin brings that floor general brilliance, reading defenses 3 moves ahead, stretching the court like few ever have. Lexi brings that grinder mindset, all hustle, all defense, all dirty work. One's the lightning, the other's the anchor. And when they're in sync, it's a problem for anyone standing in front of them. And the Fever, they know it. That's why this training session hit so different. It wasn't just Lexi getting sharper or Caitlin drilling deeper into her bag. It was the two of them elevating each other. Not just passing through drills, but pushing pace, testing reactions, adjusting live. They're building not just individual skills, but a collective rhythm. And come game time, that rhythm is what separates the good teams from the ones that go deep. Let's talk about Lexi Hull for a second, because if you're still thinking of her as just a role player or a corner 3 specialist, you're about to get a serious reality check. See, last season started slow for Lexi. She was still figuring out her place, playing limited minutes, grinding through the back end of the rotation. The kind of role where one mistake gets you benched. And the good stuff? Half of it doesn't even show up in the stat sheet. But here's what made her different. She never played like her minutes were guaranteed, and never let it mess with her confidence. And then, things started to shift. Post-All-Star break, Lexi's minutes ticked up, and so did her impact. Her defense became noticeably tighter, her rotations sharper, She was closing out on shooters like it was personal, getting in passing lanes, and contesting shots that most players just jog past. Offensively, she didn't try to do too much, but when she shot with purpose. Her three-point percentage rose. Her decision-making got quicker. She wasn't forcing anything, just making smart, high-efficiency plays. By the time the Fever made that final playoff push, Lexi had quietly become a key piece in clutch moments, and people noticed, especially her teammates. After a critical win over the Dallas Wings, Caitlin Clark, who doesn't hand out praise just to be nice, specifically called out Lexi's defense, her hustle, and her ability to knock down shots under pressure. That wasn't just a nice moment, that was a validation from the franchise cornerstone herself. And while most players took the offseason to recover or refresh, Lexi made a move that changed everything. She joined the inaugural season of the Unrivaled League. Now let's pause on that, because this wasn't just some pickup league or exhibition showcase. Unrivaled brought together serious WNBA caliber talent, and every game was a test. No easy matchups, no filler minutes. And Lexi, she didn't just show up, she thrived. She helped lead her team, Rose BC, to a championship. And more importantly, she was recognizably better, stronger on defense, more confident with the ball, even more vocal on the floor. Her coach in the league said it best: Lexi does the things that don't show up in the box score, but they win you games. And that's the part fans, and now coaches, are starting to really appreciate. She's not just playing harder, she's playing smarter. Her off-ball movement is surgical, her defensive positioning, elite. And in a league that often glorifies flash, Lexi is reminding everyone that impact doesn't always look like highlights. So, now, coming into this season, she's not just some depth piece. She's earned her spot in the conversation. She's a championship-tested, defense-first, high IQ wing who knows how to work within a system and disrupt one on the other side. And with the Fever aiming for more than just playoff appearances, players like Lexi, the ones who do the little things consistently, might be the difference between being a good team and being a serious contender. All right, so now that we've seen how Lexi Hull has leveled up and why Caitlin Clark's work ethic is already legendary, let's circle back to the person whose reaction kicked this whole conversation off in the first place, Coach Stephanie White. And look, this isn't someone who gets easily impressed. She's been around championship teams, coached top-tier talent, seen hype come and go. So when she says something stopped her in her tracks, you listen. Because Stephanie White didn't just walk into that gym and think, hey, this looks promising. No, her exact reaction? Something along the lines of, this is different, this is special. She wasn't just talking about raw skill either. She wasn't raving about how fast Caitlin's release is, or how sharp Lexi's closeouts looked. Though, yeah, those things were on point. What really got her was the intensity, the chemistry, and the sheer intentionality behind every rep. She saw two athletes pushing themselves to uncomfortable places on purpose. And that's rare. A lot of talented players want to win, but not every player wants to hurt in the offseason. Not every player embraces being pushed, being critiqued, being challenged in every detail. And that's what White zeroed in on. It wasn't just that Caitlin and Lexi were coachable, it was that they were obsessively coachable. They weren't waiting to be told what to fix. They were asking. They were seeking feedback in real time, stopping mid-drill to rerun actions, self-correcting. Form, testing new footwork techniques. They were literally trying to squeeze out every last inch of improvement from that session. Stephanie White described it as a level of engagement and effort that's rare even among pros. Not passive listening. Not, okay coach, got it. But an active, hungry, borderline relentless desire to get better. And that's what shocked her. It wasn't just that Caitlin and Lexi were getting reps in. It was that they were completely bought into the process. Not just for themselves, but for each other. White could see that they were pushing each other. Not to compete against one another, but to level up together. That kind of dynamic, that's what championship teams are built on. So yeah, White's reaction wasn't just excitement, it was reverence. A visible respect for two players who aren't just talented, but who are wired for greatness. And now you can bet she's thinking about how to channel that kind of intensity and connection into every single player on the Fever roster. Because when your franchise cornerstone and your underdog role player are going this hard together in a private workout, that's not a fluke. That's a blueprint. So while Stephanie White was having her, hold up, what did I just witness? Moment in that gym, she wasn't the only one catching the vibe, because just a few days later when that training footage leaked online, short clips, nothing fancy, the internet lost it. We're talking fans on Reddit, Twitter, X, Instagram, all losing their minds over what they were seeing. Lexi Hull going full lockdown mode, Caitlin Clark drilling shots at game speed, both of them moving, in sync like they were already mid-season form. And the comments? Man, the comments were gold. One fan joked, "Lexi's finally serious after her Florida vacation. I see you, girl." Another, "Been waiting for this to drop. If LH can confidently take the shot, we're about to be dangerous. And you know, CC gonna feed her?" Someone else chimed in with, "Just imagine CCKM and LH all cooking at the same time. You thought last season was fun? Buckle up." But the wildest part? The energy wasn't just about what they saw, it was about what it meant. Because suddenly people weren't talking about Lexi like a role player anymore. They were talking about her as a core piece, someone who could stretch the floor, hit the open three, and anchor the perimeter on defense. And Caitlin, the legend of her work ethic just grew tenfold. One fan summed it up perfectly. This is why Caitlin Clark is on another level. She lives in the gym. She doesn't just want to win, she wants to own the league. But here's the flip side to all that hype. When fans get excited, expectations skyrocket. Now people aren't just hoping Lexi breaks into the rotation. They're expecting her to show up big. And when that level of buzz builds this early, the pressure's already mounting months before the season opener. Still, from the looks of it, neither of them is backing down. If anything, this training session and the explosion it triggered online feels like the spark of something way bigger. Because the Fever fan base doesn't just want to believe anymore. After seeing this, they're convinced. We are so back. All right, so with all this hype, the big question starts creeping in. Where does Lexi Hull actually fit in this new-look Indiana Fever squad? Because let's not forget, this team didn't stand still over the offseason. The front office got busy. They brought in veteran leadership, added depth at the wing, and bolstered a young core that's already stacked with potential. On paper, this is a roster that looks way more balanced and way more competitive than last year. And that's where things get interesting for Lexi. See, last season, there was space for experimentation. Roles weren't locked. The team was figuring itself out. New players, new chemistry, new systems. But this year, there's competition at every position. Every single minute on the floor is going to be earned. But here's the thing. Lexi's not walking into that battle empty-handed. She's coming in fresh off a championship run in the unrivaled league, sharper than ever, and with a crystal clear understanding of what she brings to the table. She's not the flashiest player on the court, and that's exactly why she might end up being one of the most valuable. Because in a lineup that already features Caitlin Clark's explosive offense and Aaliyah Boston's dominance in the paint, you need someone like Lexi, a player who doesn't need the ball to make an impact. Someone who spaces the floor, rotates on defense, talks, hustles, glues the whole thing together. And let's be real, with the Fever setting their sights on a real playoff push, that kind of player becomes essential. Now, here's where it gets spicy. With the added depth, Lexi's minutes won't be handed to her. She's gonna have to compete every single practice, prove she belongs in that rotation against a now deeper bench. But if she brings what we just saw in that training session into camp, if she keeps hitting shots, playing elite level defense, and doing all the intangible stuff, yeah, she's gonna force her way into the conversation. Stephanie White isn't the kind of coach to get swayed by media buzz or fan love. She watches tape. She looks for consistency. And if Lexi delivers on both ends of the floor like she has been, White's gonna find a way to make room. Bottom line, Lexi Hull doesn't need to be the star. She just needs to be the piece that makes the stars shine brighter. And in a Fever system built around offensive firepower and fast tempo, a high IQ, defensive-minded, off-ball weapon like Lexi, that's the kind of player that wins playoff games. Okay, we've seen the growth, we've felt the hype, but let's keep it real. Lexi Hull still has things to prove. Now, don't get it twisted. She's put in the work. She's earned respect. But the WNBA is brutal. It's fast, it's physical, and it never stops evolving. If you want to stay on the floor, let alone expand your role, you've got to keep adding layers to your game. And for Lexi, that next layer is all about versatility on the offensive end. We know she can hit the catch-and-shoot three. That's already in the bag. But if she wants to lock down consistent minutes in a deep Fever rotation, she's gonna need to show she can do a bit more with the ball in her hands. We're talking attacking closeouts with confidence, making quick reads in transition, maybe even creating her own shot in late clock situations. Nothing crazy. She's not expected to suddenly become an ISO scorer. But adding just one or two counters to her offensive toolkit, that could change everything. Then there's the defensive side, which, let's be clear, is already her calling card. She's got the motor, she's got the IQ, she's got the footwork. But this season, she's likely to face even tougher matchups. Bigger wings, quicker guards, more experienced scorers. So it's gonna be about refining the small stuff. Positioning, screen navigation, recovery speed. She has to become the kind of defender that coaches trust to guard anybody, not just second unit matchups. And here's the real challenge: consistency under pressure. Because now, expectations are up. People are watching, fans want more, teammates are expecting more. The lights are going to be brighter, and Lexi's going to have to show that she's not just capable of impact, but that she can deliver it night after night. But if history tells us anything, it's that Lexi welcomes that challenge. She's not chasing highlight plays, she's chasing improvement. And every time the bar has been raised for her, she's shown up, locked in, and leveled up. So yeah, there's still room to grow, but that's not a knock. That's what makes her so exciting. Because if she continues this trajectory, adds those small offensive wrinkles, sharpens her defensive tools, and keeps showing that fearless mentality, she's not just going to stick in this league, she's going to thrive in it. So here we are, a private workout, 2 players, 1 stunned head coach, and now, a franchise buzzing with belief. Lexi Hull isn't just coming along, she's arriving, with purpose. Her defense is elite, her shot is clean, her mentality, unshakable. And next to her, Caitlin Clark, one of the most electric young stars the game has seen in years, quietly outworking everyone behind the scenes. Together, they're building something bigger than individual success. They're laying the foundation for a culture, one rooted in work, in trust, and in pushing each other past the point of comfort. And Stephanie White, she sees it. You can hear it in her voice. This wasn't about one good workout, it was a shift. A confirmation that the potential people keep whispering about in Indiana, it's very real, and it's showing up early. But now comes the real test. Can Lexi carry her off-season momentum into the fire of the regular season? Can she hold her ground in a more competitive lineup? And can this Caitlin-Lexi duo, with all its grit and chemistry, actually become one of the driving forces behind a playoff run? Because let's be honest, the Fever aren't sneaking up on anyone this year. The league is watching, the fans are expecting, and for the first time in a long time, Indiana looks like a team that could really make noise. This isn't just hype, this isn't just vibes, it's work, it's progress. And if things fall into place, we might be watching the beginning of something very special.